One of the most common questions I get asked is now the right time to buy? And in short, it is and it isn't. I'm Andrew Gavin. I'm a mortgage lender covering all of California, and I sell real estate here in San Diego. Let's talk about the right time to buy. So you can see on this report that basically since about 2009, 15 years ago, home prices have steadily increased. Now, back then, the average home price was about $350,000, $385,000. Today, we're all the way up $1.1 million for the average house in San Diego. So, in about 15 years' time, a house has gone up in value 300%. And that's absolutely crazy. And the biggest reason why the answer to the question of when the right time to buy is, it's now. Because if we continue with a trend like this, which there's no reason that we wouldn't, nothing is stopping what you're seeing here. We still have low inventory. We're running out of space. Interest rates are high, but that hasn't even slowed down the last 2 or 3 years. We're still seeing growth. So what's going to cause home prices to drop? Probably the only thing is a global economy failure. And at that point, it doesn't matter what you're doing. Whether you're renting or you own a house, you potentially could be in financial struggles on a day-to-day basis. But depending on how long you've owned your house, you could potentially still have equity in it where you could sell and benefit. But that's going to be a very unique scenario. All right, so currently around January of this year, we were looking at average home prices of about $1.15 million. That's massive. Now, what I did is I took this number, this 385,000. I'm showing you 2009 at 355. It did bounce up just a hair to 385 for January 2010. So I took 385 from 2010 and I added 7% home value growth year over year, which took us up to 2025 being $1.077 million. So $1,077,000 for the same home. You can see that is a increase in value of over 300%. That is absolutely insane. If you are renting and you're watching this, you've really got to consider what you need to do to set yourself up to buy a house and stop renting. Imagine if you were just paying $2,000 or $3,000 in rent this whole time. You might have, one, paid off the property you lived in if you have been paying for the last 15, 20 years. Or if you just add them all up, you've paid off a property. And two, look at all the money that you lost in equity growth. And no matter what, you needed somewhere to live this whole time. So this is the key thing of why a homeowner has substantially more wealth than a renter. It's because of owning property and the way that property increases in value. Now, before 2010, we saw a drop in value, but we're still way past that. This is a good snapshot of how owning property is a powerful savings tool as long as you're willing to invest for a long period of time. Now, 15 years to grow your investment 300% is not that much time at all. I mean, if you had $100,000 and you knew in 15 years that that would go from $100,000 to $300,000, I bet you would probably just set it there, go on with your life just like you have been. Just like how you've either owned or rented. You've paid your monthly mortgage or rent. You've gone to work. You've lived your life. But if you have owned, you now have a nice pile of equity that from move away somewhere else. You can sell and buy your next property using all that profit as a down payment, which would be like if you bought a house for 300 grand and it's now worth 6, and you have, let's just keep this simple, you have now 300 grand in profit, but you want to buy an $800,000 house, and frankly, you might not be able to afford it. But because you have that 300 grand in profit, you can now put it as the down payment on that purchase, and you're not having to finance an $800,000 purchase. You're financing a $500,000 purchase. You're $300,000 ahead because you started whenever you did, and you built that equity. And you took that equity, that growth that happens just because you live and own year over year, and you've taken it and dumped it into your next bigger, better house. You're still going to have probably a larger mortgage payment because now you're buying a $500,000 house instead of the $300,000. You might have, at the time of purchase, interest rates could be a little higher, a little lower. We don't know. Interest rates always fluctuate every few years. We are at a cycle right now where we've been right around 7% for the last 2 years. So if you are a renter and you've been thinking, well, I'm going to wait till rates go down. Well, I can tell you for sure the rates have been pretty much right at about 7% for at least the last 2 years. They've gone up a little bit and down within that range, but they're still right around 7. They're not down in the 3s. They never dropped into the 4s. We saw a very tight window where some rates were in the 5s without buying them down. Ultimately, the answer to this one fundamental question is, when should you buy a house? And is now the right time to buy? That is going to be very specific to you. But what I believe you should consider is, how much can I afford? Will that meet my needs for the next 3, 5, 7 years? If it can, and you can find something that you like in an area that you like, you should absolutely buy a home so you can take advantage of these home value increases that you're seeing behind me. I remember back in 2010 at a training with one of my brokers, and he said you could research just about any area that you wanted to focus on, and you will see a home doubles its original price about every 25 to 30 years. This chart's showing us that here in San Diego, it's going up even faster. This is 7% year over year for 15 years. And we're right on track. That is massive. That is a huge benefit. You know, a good savings account might not even give you 7% interest year over year, but your home will, and you get a tax break from it. There are benefits being a home owner, along with the property going up in value, creating equity, and increasing your personal wealth. So, again, these numbers are important to consider, but what's really important and what drives people to buy homes and specifically choose the one that they end up with is usually emotion of how much they love it and needs within their life. Having a kid, needing more space, wanting to have a pool, not wanting to live above or below somebody, wanting extra space for toys or trailers or things like that, having a nice backyard, a larger house with more bedrooms than you find in apartments or condos. There's always a reason, and it's usually an emotional one. And then looking at the numbers like this, hopefully you understand that it's a very profitable opportunity for you to buy a house. Because here in San Diego and pretty much across California, home prices are only going up. And they've been steadily going up for about the last 15 years, as you can see in this chart. If you have more questions about home values, San Diego real estate, or your financing to get a loan for your next home purchase or refi, please reach out to me. I would love to talk with you.